Sure. Yeah. So I'm head of operations at QPR, which covers quite a wide range of issues. So facilities, maintenance, hard and soft services, but also match days, security, stewarding, IT, new training ground developments, everything kind of encompassing in one there. But my career really started in facilities management in sort of banking, financial sector a few years back. And then 4.5 years ago, joined QPR in the facilities team, and that's slowly evolved in sort of a wider ranging position that it is now. But really sort of started in the post room, in the mail room, in sort of banking sector, and then worked my way up through to facilities manager there before coming over to QPR. Yeah, so I've always had an interest in sport, but say facilities management for me was the initial challenge. I had a business management degree, didn't really know what I wanted to do after university. I initially went into sort of the sales environment, but found myself in a temporary job in facilities and really enjoyed the problem solving, every day being different challenge that comes with facilities. So quite early in the sort of facility management side, I thought what would be even more of a challenge, and that came to looking at venues such as sports, but other venues that facilities management works in, so whether it's theme parks, museums, entertainment sectors. So that was what I thought my next step would be in my career. So really kept my eye open for jobs, was lucky enough to find something in sports, always loved sports, and that was the QPR job. So now hopefully that's my career sorted for the rest of my life. I can stay in sports. Yeah, so every business, of course, is going to be affected by COVID, and our challenge was probably twofold. We were slightly unique. There were obviously other venues that continued to operate, but as an entertainment venue, we were probably one of the only entertainment businesses in the country that continued to run with COVID still going on in the first lockdown. So we were the first sport to come back to playing behind closed doors, which had never been done before. So playing as it is now with an empty stadium behind me. Which is quite strange when you're used to tens of thousands of people cheering players on, and suddenly it's silent as anything and you can hear everything around the stadium. So that was the first challenge, getting the logistics sorted. The changing rooms here were too small for players to socially distance, so you had to get players ready in dressing rooms that were suddenly like bars and lounges that they weren't used to, and all of the, trying to keep a biosecure bubble for the players. So that was the first challenge. But you mentioned hospitality. We rely heavily on ticket sales, people coming to the games, and all the hospitality areas like the one I'm sitting in now being open, and that was another challenge. So we may have continued to have sport ongoing, but we lost a huge part of our business, a huge part of revenue, and I think that affected every sport. All of the ticket and hospitality revenue we'd rely on to continue to operate my budgets was suddenly slashed. So trying to work on getting through that period was certainly a challenge. Yeah, so everyone's going to have similar challenges in how you work from home and how you introduce remote working. So for us, I never thought I could work from home. I was in the stadium every day before lockdown, and home working was something that you might be able to do in other departments, but certainly not in operations or facilities. So the first change will be that hopefully becomes a little bit more permanent, because it does make life a little bit easier than coming in every day. And you can learn how to actually manage, remotely, manage the teams and manage the staff here. So in the office-based environment, that's going to be the big change for us. But for sport, it's about reacting quickly and reacting with little notice and being flexible to changes. We don't know whether COVID passports come in or capacity crowds get reduced again at short notice, or we have to introduce stringent rules for the players again. So being reactive to changes now is something that would be much more expected than before. I think the match day processes here at the stadium have probably been the same, changed and improved year on year, but largely been based off the same processes for 10 or 20 years. I had to rip those processes up last year, completely start anew and do everything again. So a lot of things that have always been the way they have been are now changing. And I think that's becoming more of the norm. You can't just settle into what you have to be really reactive. That's a good question. I think the best investment for me probably early doors was actually looking into the health and safety side, which is probably not a lot of people say too often. But really that opened doors for me in future job markets to make sure that I understood the health and safety world, got my NEBOSH qualification. Without that, I don't think a lot of doors would have opened to me. So when I started in a post room, really doing sort of facilities assistant roles. As soon as health and safety qualification came on board, the job market opened for me, and I found that actually I had a lot better understanding of how things would work in whether it's maintenance tasks or cleaning tasks around the stadium. Otherwise, without trying to sort of big up the conference that we will be having, but getting out there and networking. Without networking, the people that you meet, the ideas that you generate, and the contacts that you make, that is a really important part of my role. And I think that's what I'd recommend to anyone, because all of a sudden you're meeting people from different sectors, you're getting ideas. And one of the things we had from COVID, while we weren't able to network, there was a big WhatsApp group in football, and all of a sudden all the stadium operators speaking to each other, and it makes your role 10 times easier when you can just pick up the phone to someone that you've met and have conversations and share challenges. Yeah, no, COVID is absolutely the biggest challenge we faced. But I talk about that here, and I talk about that at the conference. So I think actually another challenge a lot of people don't realise is the budgets that we have to work to in sport, and trying to operate a stadium that a lot of these stands are sort of 50, 60 years old, and trying to operate those. People look at a football club and think that you have millions to spend, which we do. We may see news stories, tens of millions being spent on players, and then you need to get a roof fixed, and people are coming in expecting that you've got millions of pounds in your budget. But my budget is the same as probably any other facilities or operations operator out there. You've got very tight budgets to make sure things run well. We're trying to move to a new stadium. It's going to be a long way off, but we're hoping to build a new stadium. So really it's maintaining an old stadium without making major changes or major overhauls to the stadium that we do have. It's very difficult to upgrade facilities here, while being conscious of budgets and making sure things run economically. So maintaining this on a day-to-day basis is quite challenging. And similarly, we had an old training ground. We're finally building a new training ground, so that'll be another big challenge. We're now luckily, hopefully starting next month to build a new training ground site as well. I think one of the greatest achievements was not long after I joined the business. When I came into QPR, I was always looking for areas that I thought I could make a difference and I could make an impact on quite early. Of course, you're eager to impress people. And something I noted was actually, it's another job role that I have on top of the job roles here. I'm the disabled liaison officer for the club. So that involves dealing with disabled and ambulance supporters. And a common complaint we had was regarding the number of wheelchair spaces we had at the stadium. So did a lot of project work, a lot of research and planning into how we can improve things, and especially for away fans who travel to the stadium. If you were an away fan in a wheelchair, you couldn't sit with your own away fans, you were sort of stuck with home supporters. So a big project I had early doors was going out there, getting costs, planning everything and presenting to a board why we should do this, why it was really important. And I thought that would fall on deaf ears. And actually for the role I was in, which is quite junior, it got picked up and they said, run with it, that'd be really good to introduce. So we built a new disabled wheelchair-based section in the corner of the stadium. And every time I see that section that's major overhaul, a lot of construction work to increase the wheelchair base, every time I walk past that, I think, that was great, for me to be able to, I think, have a real change. I see it on the TV cameras. You can even see it on games like FIFA. It's in there. You can see the wheelchair section. And I think actually that was something I was able to have an impact on, and I can see the visible change that brought. One piece of advice: look out for COVID-19. We'll learn what it is. No, I think it's actually relying on other people. When I was made head of operations, which is unfortunately for me just about a month before the first lockdown, I had to change the team that we had at quite short notice. We were bringing in new roles, we were changing the department. And in my naivety during the first lockdown, I kept trying to take on work that was part of my old roles, or didn't want to delegate to other people because I felt like I should be taking on more, and had the knowledge base to do so. And actually, as soon as I started sharing with my team, I was really overloaded with work. And as soon as I started sharing the problems with my team, come up with far better ideas than I had about issues. We were able to share the workload. So I think trying to take on too much and trying yourself is always just going to cause more stress. And as soon as I opened up to the team, so not only was I able to relieve that workload, but actually better ideas come up and different ways of solving challenges. So I think that would be the one thing I'd say to me, not 2 years ago, earlier in my career. We've touched on the challenge of COVID, so I'll certainly be sharing the challenges that we had and the learnings afterwards. And I think from a facilities management standpoint, when you're trying to operate a business that is open or a venue that's open to the public, there are challenges that people can share. It doesn't matter if you're an office that just has staff in, or whether you're having visitors from any type of venue. The challenges that we had, there's certainly learnings that share, but trying to get people to work remotely, again, from a business that was never set up to be remote. We have, I was part of the team that had to suddenly turn around and make sure that everyone could work from home. So some learnings on that side, and just, looking forward, I mentioned about being reactive and being flexible to change, so how we were able to, implement changes pretty quickly at short notice. I think we'll cover those areas. So this will be my first conference in person. It's such a huge difference being able to see people, because the conferences I did attend over the lockdown periods, you learn a lot. You were able to share learnings. I was fortunate enough being in a niche industry that you could make contacts that you could then communicate at WhatsApp and phone calls. But meeting people from different industries, I now haven't been able to do for a year and a half or close to 2 years. And so that's what's really important. You hear some great stories and speeches during the day, but having the chance to sit around lunch or stand and chat to people from different businesses, you suddenly you again realise that you all have the same issues, the same challenges, and it's just a really useful tool. So looking forward to the first time now in a few years to go to a conference.